Well, good morning, everybody. Danny back from Deep South Homestead. Woo! Boy, is it cold over here. It's I'm at the cabin. It's 28 degrees outside, and the wind's blowing. I don't know how hard, because the flag's just kind of sitting there blowing, you know. So I don't know what the chill factor is. I just know it's cold. It's sunny. The sun's coming up early this morning. I can see the sun hitting the barn good. And the temperature in here is 48 degrees inside the cabin. So, you know, we haven't been over here in a couple of weeks, so it's no fires have been built or anything, and I think that's pretty good considering that nobody's been over here to build a fire or anything. It's held its temperature pretty well. Nothing freezing or anything like that. I've got to do some water draining and stuff like that on the cabin before this weekend. All the severe cold gets here. But we've got everything. Wanda and I have been working like crazy, you know, over the weekend and stuff, trying to get cabbages all covered up, because we got some of the most beautiful cabbages out we've ever growed, you know, and to lose them would just be heartbreaking. So we've put some row cover over them, and then we piled hay over the top of that to hopefully, I hope that the number of days it's going to have to be under it, that it's not going to, you know, it's not going to hurt it, I hope. And not getting any sunlight. That's what I'm hoping. But, you know, it always happens that way here in the Deep South. We've got our onions covered up with hay and stuff like that. And it just, I don't know, it seems like we get everything up and get it going so good. And then we get that 1 or 2 day period where the temperature plunges into the teens and stays there for a couple of days and just kills everything. You know, the high tunnels this morning, I went in them and looked, because I know people's been asking about them. We didn't have any heat turned on. We have them completely closed in. I mean, completely. This morning, the temperature was 40 degrees in them. And I think that 40 degrees in the high tunnel was pretty good for it being 29 and the wind blowing. And now the sun's coming up, and I told Wanda, I said, I don't care if it gets to be 150 degrees in them today. Leave it, because we need the thermal mass to take place and warm the ground and warm everything in them, so that when the night times come, all that thermal mass comes out. Now, what we do have a problem with is, because they're so warm on the inside, is that a heavy condensation forms on the inside of the plastic around the whole thing, and then it freezes solid. And then as soon as the sun comes up in the morning, it all goes to thawing and melting, and water's dripping, pouring down everywhere in it from off the plastic in there everywhere, which is not bad, because along the sides of raised beds, you can see they get water out about half of the bed from the plastic running down. The ground gets wet about halfway out, so it's not all bad. But, you know, the rabbits seem like they're doing pretty good. The cows, of course, they're always okay. They're in and out of the barn, and in and out of the green grass. Now I've got where I just leave the pen open for them to go and come out of the green grass, because they don't overindulge in it. That's one thing about the Dexters. They don't overindulge in anything. They eat what they need, and then they move on to something different. But anyway, guys, you know, Porch Time today, I told Wanda, I said I struggled for days with this, you know, I mean, and we're fixing to start a new year, and this is the end of the old year. As a matter of fact, you know, I probably only got one more Porch Time this year, and I told her, I said, you know, I like, you know, it's the end of the year. We started fixing to start off a new year. I don't want to sit and talk about world events, because world events are going to happen regardless of what we do. I mean, they're already predetermined, I can tell you that. So I was sitting in the living room this morning, had a good fire going, my feet propped up there, and just kind of in my own little world, I suppose. And I got to thinking about some past events in my life when I faced some real dire consequences, and maybe not consequences, but challenges. Had some really severe challenges laying ahead of me, and I had to go through lots of evaluation. They'd send you to psychiatrists and stuff like that. You'd have to check your mental stability and all that before doing what you needed to do. And I thought about, I had friends who, one of them was a border patrol, and he kept telling me about all the psychological evaluations that they would keep putting him through. And he finally just got tired of it. And he come up here to get a job where we live at here. I was trying to help him get a job, and he come back and he goes, they're probably not going to take me. And I said, why? He said, well, they did a psychological evaluation on me. I said, well, I figured that was coming, because that's one of the things that, your mental stability, you have to, if you're going to have a firearm. And he said, I don't think I answered some of the questions right. Needless to say, he didn't get the job. And I figured by the way he answered the questions, I told him, I said, you probably won't get the job. And he goes, no, he said, I guess I'll just move on and go, find some other type of job. He said, I wanted to stick with law enforcement if I could, but I can't. And one of the things that I was asked was, what does it mean when you hear the phrase, what does it mean to you to strike while the iron is hot? That was in one of my psychological evaluations one time. And I told him, I says, well, to seize the moment, or to seize the opportunity when it presents itself, take advantage of it. And of course, the thing about it is you're never shown the results of these evaluations. It's either a yes or no whether or not you get to do what you're supposed to do. But I've thought a lot about that in years since then, because me being a counselor and stuff like that, I would ask that same question to people. Under different circumstances, I would ask that question. And but today, I want to pose that question to us as a collective homesteading community. What does it mean to strike while the iron is hot? Because you see, for so long, we've sat back and we've talked about the what if syndrome. Well, what if this happens, or what if that happens? And I had a friend one time who screamed out at me because I was questioning him, and he screamed out, he goes, well, what if it snows in July? Of course, me being who I am, said, well, it does in some places. And of course, it irritated him even more, but that's just who I am. But we've beat this horse for years now on the what if syndrome. Well, we don't have to wonder about what if anymore, because now it's what is. We're actually seeing things come to fruition that we've been talking about for a number of years now. You go back and look at my videos. Back in, I think it was 17 or 18, I have a whole series of videos on food shortages and the coming crisis of food shortages and things like that, based off of information I had, and trying to pre-warn everybody while it was still good to be able to stock up and get as much as you could get, and to just get prepared mentally as much as physically and nutritionally and all that kind of stuff. But today, posing the question, what does it mean to strike while the iron is hot? Guys, we're at the apex, or for those of you who don't know what an apex is, it's a pinnacle of, it's a pinnacle of a building or whatever. Or the point, the top, whatever you want to call it. Used to, when they built skyscrapers and stuff like that, they put a little tree on top of it, and signifying that, or buildings, they would signify this is as high as we're going. We've reached our pinnacle, or the peak of our apex. And So we're at the apex of our civilization right now. And our food supply and our ability to be able to prepare. We're at the apex of it. In other words, if you have a hill like this, we've climbed up that hill talking about it. Well, we're up here now, and this is where we're at. Now we're going down this side. Well, you know, anytime you go up something, it's a lot more difficult to get to the top. But when you get to the top and you fall off that other side, it's just a rat race to the bottom. I mean, you fly to the bottom. And we talked about this in the past, about how that some things we used to see happen once a year, some things, then they begin to be like once a month, and then it was once a week, and now it's multiple times a day we hear of things happening. So the issues that we're facing have become so catastrophic and so a Bible verse just popped into my head. That's just the way that's the way my mind works. Job, in the book of Job, when he was going through his trials, I don't like to use the word problem, because problem doesn't really fit anything real well. He went through his trials and his tribulations that he was going through. Job made a remark about a fire. He said, man's troubles are like and I'm not going to quote it word for word, but you'll get the gist of it. I'll paraphrase it. Man's troubles are like the sparks of a fire that fly upwards. Now, what he meant by that was, you ever had a bonfire going at night, and you got this good bonfire going, and you throw a new log in there on it when it starts burning down some, and all of a sudden the whole atmosphere is covered up with red cinders just flying up through the air. Job says that's how man's troubles will be. They'll be too numerous to count. So that's where we are. We've passed the apex now. Our troubles have become more numerous than we can count. So what needs to happen at this point is that we need discernment, we need knowledge, we need understanding, and we need wisdom. Now, of course, the definition of wisdom is knowledge guided by understanding. Knowledge, we've talked about this before, is those things that we learn over the course of life. We study, learn some just through hard knocks. Understanding is the ability to put the right thing in the right place at the right time. So that's knowledge guided by understanding equals wisdom. You can have wisdom and not have knowledge or understanding in its proper perspective, and you can be a fool. You can be a wise fool, you know. So you have to put the right thing in the right place at the right time and know how to use it. And that's where we are. We're at a critical point. We're at the apex. Now, think about this. We're at the pinnacle. What happened to Jesus when Satan took him up on the pinnacle after he was put into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, and he told him, he said, I'll give you everything that your eyes can see if you'll just jump off of here, you know. And he said, the angels will deliver you up. And then, you know, of course, Christ, anytime you're faced with anything from the devil, you always quote Scripture. You know, man, you know, he told him the Scripture's there that goes with all that. Like it was, he was tempted with a stone. You know, man shall not live by bread alone, and thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. You know, all this type of stuff in that particular passage there. Well, we're at that apex or pinnacle in our life right now in America, or in the world in general. This ain't just for America, this is the whole world. Because what we're facing now is not something that's just for our country. We're facing global issues because we're into a global climate crisis right now. Because the solar minimum is not only affecting America, it's affecting the whole world. And I've put some things over on Patreon that I'm not privy to put over here to just to give people a heads up, I mean, I put a map up over there that that was given, showing the new earthquake fault lines and stuff like that, the new ones, not the old ones, but all the new ones. The magma hotspots on the face of the earth and stuff like that. The thin crust areas where there's going to be upheavals of land, where probably the next new earthquakes are going to be at, the next massive ones and stuff like this. And this is all knowledge. This is not fear. This is knowledge. This lets us know what to do. You know, I mean, there's things, all types of things that have come out with different groups to help us to understand what we're facing climate-wise right now. Some of them are, you know, a little unnerving. Some of them are just downright scary. I'll just be honest. But we've got to remember that our refuge is in the Lord, not in man, or not in circumstances. So, knowing that we face all this, the supposed water issues that's going to be happening here pretty soon along the coastlines of the world, and the massive weather changes that we're going to be expecting, like this weekend. You know, I mean, we're going to be as cold in the deep south as we've been. It's been a long time, let me put it that way. I'm in my 60s, and it's been a long, long time since we've had this kind of cold down here. Not to say that we haven't had it in the past, because we have. But for this type of cold to be coming in, and a lot of the United States is breaking records, you know, 100-year records and stuff like that. So what does it mean to strike when the iron is hot in a situation like this? Those of us who are trying to flee the cities, flee subdivisions, flee places that we live, and all of a sudden we live rural, and all of a sudden a large landowner around us decides he's going to sell his property, and it ends up being a giant solar field, or it ends up being a giant subdivision, and then by no fault of our own, we're stuck in this. And we've got to go even more rural than what we were. So what do we do? What does it mean to strike when the iron is hot? Well, we are at a very critical point right now. And when I say that, we're at a critical point both economically, we're at a critical point both financially right now, our financial system, and with the housing market. According to the housing analyst right now, in the last 6 months, the housing industry has dropped almost 20% across the board. Now, there's areas that it's still good, and there's areas that it's leveled off, but there's areas that it's plunged. So they find a happy medium in that, according to the people that I'm talking to, nationwide. That is not local or anything like that, but. And it may be worse where you're at, and it may be better. But the nationwide consensus is that the last few months of 2022, the housing industry has dropped 20%. And by May of this coming year, it's projected to drop another 20% if the feds continue to raise the interest rates. And the feds are raising the interest rates to slow down hyperinflation. And what that's going to do is, it's going to make it, those people who had equity in their homes, it's going to make them either breaking even or they're going to be upside down. If you bought your house during a high time, you'll be upside down. If you already owned your home ahead of time and you've paid it down some, you'll just break even. But if you've owned your home for many years and it's paid for, you'll probably still have some equity and you won't be upside down in it, even in a 40% decreased market. Now, you won't get the hyperinflated market value that you would have gotten 2 years ago or a year ago, but you'll still get a fair market value. So what this means is that if you're in one of those situations where you need to make a quick decision about moving, you've got a few choices there, because now is the time to strike while the iron is hot. If you can hold on till May, you probably could get land a lot cheaper. If the financial system hadn't gone digital, which I don't know if it can go digital that fast. Because I'm really digging into that pretty hard with different people and stuff, and I'm not sure that you can just flip the switch overnight, because there's so many variables in the financial system that has to take place, is the reason I say that. Now, India did it in a 4-hour period, from 8 o'clock at night till midnight. They went from currency to digital. And everybody's worried that America will do that, but I don't know that we can actually do it that quick. So, to be waiting till May in hopes that you can get land cheaper will only benefit you if you have a considerable amount of money that's not tied up into something that you can lay your hands on, and that you're willing to take the gamble that the financial market is not going to turn digital on you and something wacko happen and all new rules and regulations come out and you still can't buy. Or you could be upside down if you wait. You may be breaking even right now, and if you wait till May and prices plunge another 20% and you're breaking even now, you would be upside down. And you would not be able to sell and come out and buy another place. So, to strike while the iron is hot is going to depend on your circumstances. I highly encourage people at this point in life to be very wise, to use a lot of discernment, because I'll be honest with you, and I'm always honest, as honest as I can be. I don't know if the market can hang on that much longer. Just being honest. I think it's going to come to a point where you just won't be able to sell. Because I went through that back in the 80s. I owned a farm several miles from here, in another city, another county, not another city, but another county. And I needed to sell that farm. It took several years to sell it because the market, the oil industry had crashed and everything in the 80s, and I wasn't upside down in it bad or anything, but I just needed to sell it. And it took several years for me to be able to unload that piece of property, and then I wasn't able to get what I actually thought that I should have got off of it. I still come out ahead, but not where I wanted to be. Let me put it that way. But that's what I'm talking about. Is to strike when the iron is hot is going to depend on your circumstances. If you can afford to do something and you can do it, then you need to decide, is this what I want to do? If it's something that you cannot afford to do, and you think you might get a better deal if you wait, that's no different than going to the boats, throwing your money in a slot machine, pulling the handle. It's a gamble. And you can't beat yourself up if you took a gamble and you lose. Because life is a gamble. I mean, over my course of my life, I have gambled on many things. I've been a bad loser on some things. I could have owned hundreds of acres at one point if I'd have just stepped out on faith and bought it when I was a young man, because land was only $700 an acre. I could have bought a lot of land. But land had been cheap my whole life. I didn't think it was ever going to go up. 2 years, it went from $700 an acre to $2,000 an acre. I could have doubled my money. So, or tripled my money almost. So my point is, guys, with what we're facing in 2023, I'm telling you now, please examine your situation and strike while the iron is hot. Because our future as a civilization will depend on how wisely we strike when we need to. Look at your financial situation. Look at where you live. Look at every aspect of your life, your food system. Can you grow food where you're at? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you get water? Can you heat your home? Can you take care of yourself? There's lots of things. Ask yourself all these questions, and then, my friend, try to put it all into perspective and strike while the iron's hot. See, this is the beauty of AI. AI, when they merged IoT with it, made it to where AI could predict it could do just about anything it can't do. And that's what has made AI so appealing, is being able to take all the IoT of everything and digesting it and being able to make sense out of it and put the right thing in the right place at the right time. So, strike while the iron is hot. Let that sink into your head. I've had to go through this many times in my life, these psychological evaluations on things, for positions and jobs and whatever. So, guys, I hope today that this little tidbit of information, it's not much, but it's a nugget. And I'm having to speak in riddles a lot because I don't want to overstep boundaries that I can't overstep. And to tell you, strike while the iron is hot, so that your future and the future of your families will be sustainable. Thank you, guys, from Deep South Homestead.